Welcome back to my channel. My name's Alyssa, and I'm happy to talk about this topic today because this is a big one for me. This is important. It's something that I still work on. It's something that I didn't understand growing up, and would have been really helpful if I had. Would have definitely saved me a lot of pain for sure. And I think it's something that a lot of us can relate to. Okay, so it's when, tell me if you can relate to having, at some point or multiple points, find yourself after something's happened kind of, but I knew better, right? That phrase, that moment where you're feeling disappointment over something and you just kind of like sigh and you're just like, but I knew better. Something told me not to do that, or that I should have done this, or whatever it is, and we didn't listen. We ignored it, and now we're feeling the pain of regret, the disappointment, right? And that can be a really painful place to be in. I know for me personally, regret is something that I really do not want to feel. It's just something that I really try at all costs to avoid. So I can't really say that I have a lot of little regrets. Like I do pretty well at managing, like little day-to-day things that, and making, choices that wouldn't cause me to be regretful, right? Because I really do not like to feel that feeling. And I'm sure that you can relate. That's really a sucky feeling, especially when you can kind of think back and know, I shouldn't have done that. I knew better. Something told me, right? And we all know what that feels like, and it sucks. And it can be eye-opening, of course, but the regrets that I do have are larger ones that I really wish, I had handled better, right? Or that I had done something different. And as I'm sure all of you can relate on some level, and understanding that we can kind of learn to make better decisions by tuning into our body more and really distinguishing the difference between our intuition and fear-based thoughts and fear, scenarios that are holding us back in life and keeping us from really getting the things that we want and making the decisions that we want and having more of what we want. So with this, when you think back to that moment when you're like, but I knew better. Okay, go back, and in that moment, whatever it was that you can remember that was something that your body was telling you you shouldn't have done, right? Back, like you rewind back and think about what that felt like and what it sounded like. And you have to admit that, yes, you chose to ignore it, and that's what eventually led to the pain of the regret, right? Is because we have that voice or that feeling, but we ignore it, and then the situation unfolds, and usually we're disappointed. Usually it doesn't turn out the way that we want. And when we think back, we realize, well, I didn't listen. I knew better, but I didn't listen. Okay, so that right there, what did that feel like when you were hearing that, it telling you not to do something or to do something different or whatever it was telling you? Really think back and remember what did that feel like? What did it sound like? What was my body doing? What was running through my head, or where was the feeling at? And really understand that that's your inner guidance. That's your intuition. And yes, it's typically, known to be stronger in women, but men have it too. I mean, this is human. We're human. And we all have an intuition and an inner guidance. So if you don't want to use that word, just, it's your inner self, it's your higher self, it's your guidance, it's the universe, whatever. It's that deep knowing. Okay, that's the best way that I have kind of been able to explain it to myself and understand the difference, because this is something that we're not always taught and that we don't even always know how to differentiate. And especially like for me, I wasn't able to differentiate this growing up. And it was from trauma and abuse as a child that I was almost programmed to not believe what I was feeling, or to believe that I was wrong, or whatever. And the same might be true for you, or something similar, or maybe not. Maybe it's been something that you just never quite took the time to distinguish, and that's fine. We can do it now, right? So understand that fear is your brain trying to keep you safe, okay? So this, which can be helpful in some situations, right? Okay, we know that. But if you're honest and you really can think back to those moments where you have to make a decision, how are you feeling? Are you having a bunch of these thoughts that are racing through your mind, and your heart starts racing, and you're getting anxious, and you're panicked, and fear, and just, it's loud, right? These thoughts are really loud in your head. They're in the forefront. They're really trying to get your attention. It's dramatic, right? Okay. I've learned that is the fear talking. Okay, so that is the fear and your brain trying to keep you safe from similar, because it recognizes this as a similar experience to something that has happened in the past that has been painful. Okay, and we're just afraid because we don't want to feel pain. Okay, but that can sometimes hold us back, because there are sometimes things that we need to do, and that we need to face our fears and our discomforts and get out of our comfort zone a little bit to grow, right? So that's one thing. But when you're really feeling about a situation that you just have this deep knowing, right? It's calm, it's quiet. The voice it's not trying to scare you. It's not making you hysterical. It's not necessarily like loud, like you hear it or you feel it, but you just know, and it's quiet. And I believe that because it's quiet is why sometimes it is a little bit easier to overlook if we aren't really, and we can mistake it for just, it can be mistaken for just, I don't even know, just a wrong, just a nervousness or something, right? It could be just mistaken as something, your nerves, or we might think that that's fear, right? Or that that's just something that's trying to talk us out of what we really want. But regardless, we have to be able to admit that sometimes we just don't want to believe it, because it might be trying to tell us to go in a different direction at that very moment, and we don't want to just trust it. We want what we want, and we want it at the moment. And even though we kind of know, right, we have that little inner voice that's quiet and trying to tell you that it's not right. But because we, as humans, typically want, instant gratification. We don't want to wait. We want, something right now, and that feels good or sounds good at the moment. And we just are a little impulsive maybe, and we just do that. And then later, as the situation unfolds, oftentimes, if we ignored that inner knowing, it turns out to be something that is painful and disappointing, and we have this regret because we wasted that time and we knew better, right? Or we wasted money, or we wasted whatever it was, and now we're suffering the regret of it. So I really challenge you to take the time to really understand the difference between those thoughts that are creating these stories that are trying to scare you, that are making you panicked, and understand that if that's what it is, that could just be fear creating these stories, and that we don't have to believe everything that's running through our head. We don't have to believe everything that we think. Okay? And sometimes we do have to get out of our comfort zone to grow, and we do have to take chances, and we do have to to have trust and walk through the fear a little bit. But knowing the difference between that and when it's really our gut talking, it's really our intuition talking, it's our inner guidance, it's that little voice that's protecting us, and it's there just kind of whispering, right? And it's quiet and it's just confident. It's also another good way to kind of explain it. It's almost just like a confidence. It's just a knowing. It's not making you feel crazy, panicked, and scared. And it's just that, it's just, and that can make all the difference. Learning to trust that and trust that the universe has your back and that your guidance is here to help you. And then just allowing yourself to actually trust that can really help you make the better decisions in life and help you have less regrets and less pain. It takes time. It definitely is something that takes consistency and time and practice and, just being intentional with it, right? You have to have the intention to sit there and really kind of think about the difference. Is it in my head and is it racing? Is it panicky, or is it in my body more and calm and quiet, or just however it feels? Just really compare it to the other times that you've felt that way. And you kind of have, because it might present differently in different people, right? It might not always feel the exact same or whatever, but the point is that it's a confident, calm, quiet kind of knowing versus the loud, screaming, panicked fear thoughts from stories that you've created from your past experiences, and they're just trying to keep you small and keep you stuck because it's fear, it's the ego. That's different. And really distinguishing the two, because I know that there's definitely suffering when we ignore it. And it's always, if you're really honest with yourself, it's always been right. It's always been right. And then you have to feel the guilt of that, right? You have the regret, and it's like a guilt that you feel because you knew better. But I knew better. I knew I shouldn't have done. I knew I shouldn't have trusted that. I knew I shouldn't have said that, or I knew I should, whatever it is. And you just kind of, and then you have the guilt, and you just have the pain and the regret, and you just, it's a crappy place to be. But if you take a little bit of time to really learn the difference, you can learn to make more of the educated decisions and get more of the outcomes that you want, because you're really using and listening and being like a partner with that inner guidance, right? You guys are working together as a team. You're not trying to shut it down because you're just not wanting to accept the truth, right? You're really listening to it and understanding that it knows best and that it's been right in the past. Because we're smarter and more intelligent, and we have more abilities than we give ourselves credit for. And yes, it's easier sometimes and more fun to ignore it. And I think that's why it gets ignored sometimes, is because it's not always like the most glamorous option at the time, right? Whatever is in front of us, it might not be what we want it to be, so we just ignore it. And we just ignore it. And then later find out that maybe we shouldn't have ignored it, right? Because it was right, and we knew. And not being hard on yourself, and understanding that this is going to it takes practice and being intentional, and really just taking the time to understand the difference and how it shows up in your body, and then allowing yourself to trust it. And you're the only one that can make that decision. You're the only one that knows if you knew better or whatever the situation is. So it's also takes a matter of being honest and accepting that you knew better, but you tried to force something, and you just didn't accept it at the time. You didn't listen, and then you have to kind of suffer a little bit later. But that doesn't always have to be the case, right? Because you can change that in the future moving forward. And you can use your intuition and that inner guidance as a partner and as a tool to really help you move through life, help us get where we want to be and have more of what we want, because it's on our side. It's there for us. It's there to help us. It's not there to scare us. That's why it comes through quiet and calm and just confidence, because it's there to help us. It's not trying to scare us. It's trying to help us make the decisions that are going to take us where we ultimately want to go. We just have to allow it. We have to allow it and trust it. And that can be hard sometimes too. That takes a lot of discipline for sure. Sometimes when we are used to, since a child, being like on autopilot and not managing our minds or taking the time to listen to our intuition, and it can be a really hard thing to learn, but it definitely is. It's definitely possible. Just some practice. So I challenge you to just get more familiar with it. And as you go through life and you have more of these situations and you start to feel that inner confidence, just really tune into it, really get familiar with it, really just practice giving it a chance and learning to understand it and work with it. And it'll work out for you. Okay? You'll see the difference, and it's there to guide you. Our intuition and our higher self is here to help us, not scare us. Okay. I hope this helped. Like, subscribe, share with somebody if you know somebody that this will help. And you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.